My family staged an intervention for me after I exposed my brother's lies and cut them off. Now they're threatening what? Okay, Reddit. Deep breaths. I need to get this out somewhere, anywhere, because I feel like my head is going to explode or I'm going to start screaming and never stop. It's been 3 weeks since the detonation. That's the only word for it. And things have somehow gotten worse. I genuinely don't know where to go from here, and maybe, just maybe, some internet strangers can offer perspective because the people who are supposed to be my rock? They're the freaking landslide. It all started, as these things often do, with a Sunday dinner. Or rather, before a Sunday dinner at my parents' house. This was supposed to be a low-key affair. My dad, Mark, had specifically requested it. Just us, Chloe, he'd said on the phone, his voice doing that weary thing it does when he's trying to preemptively manage my mom, Diana. No big announcements, no drama. Just roast chicken. Roast chicken is Dad's peace offering, his white flag. It usually means Mom's been on a tear about something, and he needs a buffer zone. That buffer zone is usually me. I'm 36. I have a mortgage, a decent job in project management that I actually enjoy, and a cat named Schrodinger who is objectively the best creature on earth. I'm the responsible one. My brother, Liam, 33, is not. He's the golden child, the charismatic black hole who sucks all the energy and money out of the room and leaves a trail of charming apologies in his wake. My younger sister, Ava, 28, is the quiet observer, mostly trying to stay off Mom's radar, which I totally get. So, Sunday dinner. I decided to show up about 20 minutes early. Partly because I wanted to actually talk to my dad before Mom commandeered the conversation, and partly because traffic was lighter than expected. I let myself in the back door. I still have a key, a relic from a time when this house felt more like home and less like a carefully staged battlefield. The smell of roasting chicken and my dad's slightly too much garlic hit me, familiar and comforting for about half a second. Then I heard voices from the living room. Mom and Liam. Not loud, not angry. Almost conspiratorial. And they were laughing. Honestly, she fell for it hook, line, and sinker, Liam was saying, and there was that smug undertone he gets when he thinks he's pulled one over on someone. Another $500 last week. Said it was for the specialist copay. Bless her earnest little heart. My stomach plummeted. Specialist copay? I gave him $500 last week for a specialist copay. He'd called me, voice tight with fake anxiety, talking about mysterious symptoms the regular doctors couldn't figure out, how this specialist in the city was his last hope, but the insurance was being difficult. It was the latest installment in the ongoing saga of Liam's medical debts and unexpected job-related expenses that had mysteriously plagued him ever since he supposedly lost his marketing job 6 months ago. A story Mom had tearfully corroborated. Mom chuckled. A low, throaty sound that usually means she's enjoying someone else's misfortune. Well, she can afford it, can't she? All that money she squirrels away. It's practically her duty to help her brother when he's down on his luck. Besides, it keeps her feeling useful. Keeps me feeling useful? My hand tightened on the doorknob. I felt cold, then hot, then numb. Squirrels away? I worked my ass off for that money. I scrimped and saved for years for the down payment on my tiny condo. I drive a 10-year-old car. I haven't had a real vacation in 3 years. And the money I'd been sending Liam, thousands over the last 6 months, always with a knot of doubt in my gut that I'd pushed down because family helps family, wasn't spare cash. It was my emergency fund. My security blanket. The buffer between me and potential disaster. She's just so easy, Mom, Liam continued, oblivious. A few crocodile tears, mention how hard things are, maybe throw in a little guilt about how she's got it so good. Bam. Wallet opens. Don't be cocky, dear, Mom said, but her tone was proud. She's not stupid, just loyal. To a fault. Your father worries she'll find out. Dad worries about the sky falling, Liam scoffed. What's she going to find out? It's not like I'm posting pictures of the new sound system on Instagram. Or the weekend trips. New sound system? Weekend trips? I leaned against the doorframe, breathing shallowly. The roast chicken smell was suddenly nauseating. I felt like I was watching a scene from a particularly cynical movie, except it was my life. My money. My misplaced loyalty. This wasn't entirely new, of course. The dynamic was ancient history. Liam screws up, Mom covers for him or spins it, Dad sighs and hopes it goes away, and I used to be the family fixer. The one who smoothed things over, mediated arguments, lent money I couldn't really spare even back in college. Liam borrowed my meticulously saved summer job money for a sure-thing investment that vanished overnight. Mom explained he was just young and learning. Liam forgot to pay his share of the rent on the apartment we briefly shared after college, leaving me scrambling to cover it so we wouldn't get evicted. Mom said I should be more understanding of the pressure he was under. Liam wrecked my car, the old one, joyriding, and swore me to secrecy. Dad paid for the minimal repairs under the table and just looked sad. I thought I'd gotten better at boundaries. I'd stopped automatically saying yes. I'd moved out on my own, built my own life, but the last 6 months. Liam's job loss story had been convincing. He'd seemed genuinely distressed. Mom had cried on the phone to me, talking about how worried she was, how he was trying so hard but couldn't catch a break, how the medical bills were piling up from stress-related issues. "He's too proud to ask, Chloe," she'd whispered dramatically. "But he's really struggling. You're the only one stable enough to maybe tide him over? Just until he's back on his feet." So, like an idiot, I'd offered. And he'd accepted. Graciously, humbly. With promises of paying it all back with interest once he landed the perfect new job. The amount started small, then escalated. Always with a plausible, urgent reason. Car repairs needed to get to interviews. Rent money shortfalls. Utility bills. And then the mysterious medical stuff. I'd had doubts. Little niggling thoughts. Why wasn't he applying for unemployment? Why couldn't I find any trace of the company he supposedly worked for online? Why did Mom get cagey when I asked specific questions about his job search? But I'd squash them. Because confronting it meant confronting them. The whole rotten dynamic. It was easier, less painful in the moment, to just pay up and hope for the best. To believe the narrative they carefully constructed. Standing there in the hallway, the smell of garlic burning my nostrils, I realized the painful part wasn't avoiding the confrontation. The painful part was this. The casual betrayal. The laughter. Being seen not as a daughter or a sister, but as a gullible mark. A utility. I didn't plan what happened next. Years of swallowing my anger, of biting my tongue, of playing the peacemaker just snapped. I pushed the door open and stepped into the living room. They both jumped. Liam actually spilled a little of the whiskey he was nursing, at 4 p.m. on a Sunday, naturally. Mom's smiling face froze, then rearranged itself into a mask of pleasant surprise, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. "Chloe. Darling. We didn't hear you come in." Her voice was pitched a little too high. Liam recovered faster, plastering on his charming grin. "Hey, sis. Just catching up with Mom. Dad's in the kitchen, battling the bird." I ignored him. My eyes locked onto my mother's. "Feeling useful?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. It didn't even sound like me. It sounded cold and hard. Mom's smile flickered. "What are you talking about, dear?" "It keeps her feeling useful." "That's what you said. About me. About why I give Liam money." I took another step into the room. Liam was shifting uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze now. Typical. "Chloe, you must have misheard," Mom said, trying for soothing, but there was an edge now. "Liam and I were just discussing finances. In general, you know how worried I am about him." She reached out a hand towards me, the concerned matriarch act back in full force. I didn't take it. "Oh, I heard perfectly clearly. I also heard about the specialist copay that apparently funded a new sound system. And weekend trips. While I'm eating ramen noodles some nights to make sure my struggling brother can afford his non-existent medical bills." Liam went white. Then red. "What? No. That's not, Mom, tell her." Mom drew herself up, dropping the comforting facade. Her eyes narrowed. "Now, Chloe, you're overwrought. You barge in here making wild accusations." "Wild?" I laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Is it wild that I've given him nearly $8,000 in the last 6 months based on lies you both fed me? Lies about him losing his job? Lies about medical debt? What exactly happened to the marketing job, Liam? Did it ever actually exist?" He stammered, looking at Mom for rescue. It was a startup. It folded." "Convenient," I snapped. "And the constant payments? For what? Tell me. Because I heard you laughing about how easy I am. How my earnest little heart fell for it hook, line, and sinker." Mom stepped forward then, trying to physically block my view of Liam. A classic Diana move. Protect the golden child at all costs. "That's enough. I won't have you speaking to your brother like this in my house. You're stressed, Chloe. You work too hard. You're imagining things." Gaslighting 101. Textbook Diana. Deny, deflect, pathologize. Usually, it worked. Usually, I'd start to doubt myself, apologize, try to smooth things over. The weight of her disapproval, the threat of her icy silence, was usually enough. Not this time. Something inside me had irrevocably broken. The part that cared more about their approval than my own self-respect. Imagining things? I repeated, my voice rising despite myself. I imagined transferring $500 last Tuesday. I imagined the texts asking for help with rent the month before. I imagined you, Mom, calling me in tears saying he was falling apart. Just then, my dad walked in from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a tea towel. He stopped dead, sensing the atmosphere. It was thick enough to choke on. Everything all right? He asked tentatively, looking between the three of us. No, Dad, everything is not all right, I said, turning to him. Relief flickered across his face. Maybe he thought I was turning to him for help, for him to mediate. Nope. Everything is spectacularly, fundamentally not all right. Did you know? Did you know Liam hasn't been sick or unemployed, but has been taking thousands of dollars from me under false pretenses, apparently to fund his lifestyle, while Mom coached him on how best to manipulate me? Dad's eyes widened. He looked at Mom, then at Liam, then back at me. His face crumpled a little. He knew. Maybe not the specifics, maybe not the laughing, but he knew the core of it was rotten. He knew Liam wasn't truly struggling in the way they'd portrayed. I saw it in the way he couldn't meet my eyes. Chloe. He started, his voice pleading. Liam's had some bad luck. We didn't want you to worry. Bad luck? I echoed incredulously. Bad luck is getting laid off. Bad luck is a genuine health crisis. This isn't bad luck, Dad. This is calculated deceit. This is theft. And you knew. Mom bristled. Don't you dare accuse your father. We were trying to protect you and Liam. Protect me? By letting me funnel my savings into his pocket? Protect Liam? By enabling his lies and his irresponsibility yet again? When does it stop? When he's 40? 50? Will you still be making excuses for him then? Will you still expect me and Ava to pick up the pieces? Liam finally found his voice, fueled by indignation. You make it sound like I held a gun to your head. You offered. I offered based on lies. I was shouting now, years of pent-up frustration boiling over. Lies you told, lies Mom backed up. You played me. Both of you. You sat here, laughing about it. We were not laughing about you, Mom snapped, her face flushed. We were laughing about the absurdity of the situation. How hard things are. The lie was so blatant, so pathetic, it almost made me laugh again. The absurdity? Okay. Here's some absurdity for you. The bank of Chloe is officially closed. Permanently. Not another cent, Liam. Not for rent, not for food, not for your imaginary illnesses. You want a sound system? Get a job. A real one this time. Liam looked genuinely shocked. Like the thought had never occurred to him. Then, entitlement flared in his eyes. You can't do that. I need that money. You promised to help until I was back on my feet. You were never off your feet, I retorted coldly. You were just dancing on my dime. And Mom? Don't ever call me crying about him again. Don't expect me to fix his messes. Don't expect me to cater to your narrative. I'm done. Mom's face contorted with fury. How dare you? After everything we've done for you. What? I interrupted, genuinely curious now. The anger was still simmering, but a strange clarity was cutting through it. What have you done for me? Specifically? Lately? Besides facilitate my brother stealing from me? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her usual go-to lines, we raised you, we gave you a home, sounded hollow even to her, apparently, in the face of this specific betrayal. Dad stepped forward again, hands outstretched. Chloe, please. Let's all just calm down. It's Sunday dinner. We can talk about this later, rationally. No, Dad, I said, shaking my head, my voice suddenly tired. There's nothing left to talk about. I heard what I needed to hear. I see things clearly now. The dynamic isn't going to change. They aren't going to change. But I can. I looked from Liam's stunned face to Mom's furious one, to Dad's miserable, helpless expression. I'm leaving. Don't call me. Don't text me. I need space. A lot of it. You can't just walk out. Mom shrieked. This is your family. Family doesn't treat each other like this, I said softly, but firmly. This isn't family. It's a hostage situation, and I'm finally cutting myself loose. I turned and walked out. I didn't run, I walked deliberately. Out the living room, through the hallway where the smell of deceit still clung to the air, past the kitchen where the abandoned roast chicken sat, and out the back door into the cool afternoon air. I got in my old, reliable car, locked the doors, and only then did the shaking start. My phone began buzzing almost immediately. Liam. Mom. Liam again. Mom. Dad. I ignored them all, put the phone on silent, and just drove. I didn't know where I was going, just away. Away from the house, away from the lies, away from the crushing weight of expectation and disappointment. Driving through familiar streets, tears finally started streaming down my face. Not just tears of anger, but tears of grief. Grief for the family I wished I had. Grief for the years I'd spent trying to earn their love and respect, only to find out I was just useful. A resource to be tapped. Grief for the brother I once adored, the funny little kid who'd turned into this entitled leech. Grief for my dad's weakness, his inability to stand up to mom or protect me. Grief for my own goddamn naivety. It wasn't just the money. It was the casual cruelty of it. The laughing. The fact that they sat there, comfortable in their deception, planning how to extract more from me while I was genuinely sacrificing and worrying about Liam. It felt like discovering termites had eaten away the foundations of my life, leaving only a fragile facade that had just come crashing down. I ended up at a park overlooking the city. I sat on a bench for hours, just watching the sun go down, the phone occasionally vibrating silently beside me. I felt strangely empty. The anger had burned itself out, leaving behind a hollow ache. That first week was weirdly quiet. After the initial barrage of calls and texts, which I continued to ignore, it went mostly silent. I think they expected me to crack, to come crawling back with apologies for my overreaction, ready to resume my designated role. That's how it always worked before. I'd get upset, draw a line, they'd give me the silent treatment or lay on the guilt, and eventually, I'd cave because the tension was unbearable. Family obligation is a powerful drug. But this time felt different. The overheard conversation was a game changer. There was no ambiguity, no room for me to doubt my own perception. I had heard them. Cold, hard proof of their manipulation. And the sense of relief that came with finally saying no more was surprisingly potent. It outweighed the anxiety, the guilt, the sadness. My sister Ava texted me a few days later. "Are you okay? Mom's losing it. Dad looks like a ghost. Liam is pretending nothing happened." I replied simply, "I'm okay. Taking space. Heard Mom and Liam talking before dinner Sunday. About the money." Ava's reply was instant. "Oh God, Chloe. I'm so sorry. I suspected. Bits. But not that." Followed by, "Are you coming back?" "I don't know, Ava. I can't go back to how things were." "I get it." She wrote. A pause. "Be careful. Mom's really spinning this." That was ominous. But I tried to put it out of my mind. I focused on work, buried myself in spreadsheets and project timelines. I deep cleaned my condo. I took Schrodinger for his vet checkup. I started cooking proper meals again instead of stress-eating cereal. I reconnected with a couple of old friends I'd drifted from, partly because my family drama took up so much headspace. It felt good. Normal. Quiet. Then, about 10 days after the Sunday dinner detonation, the other shoe dropped. I got a call from my Aunt Carol, Mom's sister. Carol is usually the sensible one, the mediator. But her tone was off. Strained. "Chloe, honey? Your mother called me. She's terribly worried about you." I took a deep breath. "Aunt Carol, Mom is not worried about me. She's upset that I'm not playing my assigned role anymore." "Now, Chloe, that's not fair," she chided gently. "She said you had some kind of breakdown? That you stormed out making terrible accusations against Liam? She's worried you're stressed, maybe depressed. That you need help." I almost choked. A breakdown? I needed help? "Aunt Carol, did she tell you why I was upset? Did she tell you I overheard her and Liam laughing about how they've been conning me out of thousands of dollars for months?" There was a pause. "She mentioned you had some misconceptions about money Liam borrowed." Misconceptions? I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice. She and Liam explicitly discussed him lying to me about needing money for medical bills and job hunting, while he was actually spending it on luxuries. They laughed about how easy I was to fool. I heard them with my own ears. That's not a misconception, that's fraud. And Mom was coaching him. Aunt Carol sounded flustered. "Well, Diana can get dramatic. But Chloe, Your mother is beside herself. She thinks you're cutting off the whole family out of spite. She said you were cruel to Liam, who's already suffering so much. Suffering? The only thing Liam was suffering from was a temporary interruption to his cash flow. Aunt Carol, I love you, but I'm not discussing this anymore. Mom is twisting the narrative to make me the villain because she can't face the truth of her own actions, or Liam's. I didn't have a breakdown. I had a breakthrough. I stood up for myself after being lied to and manipulated. And yes, I am cutting them off, at least for now, because the relationship is toxic. Toxic? Chloe, that's such a strong word. Is it? What word would you use for family members who systematically deceive you for financial gain and laugh about it behind your back? She didn't have an answer. She mumbled something about families being complicated and needing forgiveness, and eventually hung up, sounding disappointed in me. That was just the beginning. Next came Uncle Steve, Dad's brother, then my cousin Marianne. The narrative was consistent. Chloe's had some kind of mental break. Chloe's lashing out. Chloe's being cruel and unforgiving. Chloe needs help. Poor Diana is worried sick. Poor Liam is devastated by her accusations. Poor Mark is caught in the middle. It was infuriating. Mom was orchestrating a full-blown smear campaign, painting me as unstable to avoid any scrutiny of her own behavior or Liam's. It was classic Darvo, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. And it was working, at least with some relatives who only ever got Mom's carefully curated side of the story. I started blocking numbers. Aunt Carol. Uncle Steve. Marianne. It felt drastic, but necessary. Every call was designed to guilt-trip me, to make me doubt my reality, to pressure me back into the fold. Then came the email. From Mom. Subject, we need to talk. For your own good. I hesitated, then opened it. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an attempt at understanding. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. Chloe dearest. My heart is breaking. Watching you push us all away like this, consumed by anger and paranoia, is more painful than I can express. Your father and I, and poor Liam, are desperately worried about your mental state. Your accusations on Sunday were so unlike you, so full of venom. We understand you're under a lot of stress with work and, well, everything else. Subtle dig at my single status, standard, but lashing out at your family, the people who love you most, is not the answer. Liam is willing to forgive you for the horrible things you said. Forgive me? He acknowledges he might not have handled his requests for help perfectly, but his desperation was real. Your interpretation of a private conversation you weren't meant to hear was twisted by your stress. We cannot stand by and watch you spiral like this. We believe you need professional help to deal with your anger and these delusions. To that end, your father and I, along with Liam and Ava, no, she couldn't be, have consulted with Dr. Ramirez, a family therapist. Dr. Ramirez is Mom's crony therapist who always tells her what she wants to hear. We want to stage an intervention. For you. To get you the help you so clearly need before you destroy your life and your relationships completely. We propose meeting next Saturday at 2 p.m. at our house. Dr. Ramirez can join via video call. Please, Chloe. Do this for yourself. Do this for us. We love you. Mom. I read it twice. 3 times. An intervention? For me? Because I objected to being systematically defrauded by my own brother with my mother's encouragement? Because I finally drew a boundary? They weren't just denying reality, they were trying to weaponize therapy, weaponize my own family members, including, apparently, Ava? To pathologize my perfectly rational reaction to their appalling behavior. The mention of Ava stung the most. Had Mom pressured her into this? Or had Ava, despite her earlier sympathy, caved to the family pressure? The thought made me sick. I didn't reply to the email. What was there to say? Arguing would be pointless. They had constructed their narrative. Chloe is crazy and cruel, and we are the worried, loving family trying to save her from herself. Instead, I called Ava. She picked up on the 3rd ring, her voice small. Hi. Ava. I got Mom's email. About the intervention. Silence. Then, a shaky sigh. Yeah. I figured you would. Are you part of this? Did you agree to this? My voice was sharper than I intended. Chloe, it's complicated, she mumbled. Mom presented it as concern. That you seemed really distraught, that maybe talking it through with a professional would help us all reconnect. Reconnect? Ava, they want to tell me I'm delusional for being angry that they stole from me. They want to diagnose my boundaries as a mental health crisis. Did Mom tell you what I overheard? The specifics? The laughing? She glossed over that part, Ava admitted quietly. She said you misunderstood, that you were stressed and blew it out of proportion. Liam backed her up. Dad just looked miserable. And you believed them? No. Her voice flared briefly. No, I didn't believe them. I know Liam. I know Mom. But Chloe. It's hard. Living here. Depending on them still for some things. Mom made it sound like if I didn't agree to show a united front of concern, I was siding against the family, siding with your destructive behavior. My anger softened slightly into weary understanding. Ava was still caught in the web. Still financially or emotionally dependent enough that outright defiance felt impossible for her. It was easier for me, living independently. So, you were going to sit there, in this sham intervention, and let them tell me I'm crazy? I don't know what I was going to do, she whispered. Probably just sit there silently. I'm sorry, Chloe. I'm really, really sorry. I should have stood up to her. It's okay, Ava, I said, though it wasn't entirely okay. It hurt. I get it. But I'm not coming. There's no way in hell I'm walking into that ambush. I didn't think you would, she said, sounding relieved. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But I'm not letting them define me or my reality. After I hung up with Ava, I sat thinking for a long time. The intervention attempt was a new low. It showed they had no intention of acknowledging their wrongdoing. Their only strategy was to discredit me, to label me as mentally unstable so they wouldn't have to face the consequences of their actions. And the mention of Dr. Ramirez. That felt particularly insidious. Using a therapist, even one I suspected was biased, to legitimize their gaslighting. Okay, I thought. You want an intervention? You want to talk about needing help? Let's talk. I spent the next few days gathering my evidence. Bank statements showing the transfers to Liam. Copies of the texts where he pleaded for specific amounts for specific, fabricated, reasons. I even wrote down, as clearly as I could remember, the conversation I overheard, including the laughter. I also found the link to Liam's friend's social media page. He'd blocked me long ago, where, sure enough, there was a picture from 3 weeks ago, Liam grinning, holding a beer on a boat, clearly on one of his weekend trips. And another from a month before, showing off a ridiculously large new TV setup that looked suspiciously like part of a high-end sound system. Screenshots were taken. I felt like I was preparing for a legal battle, not a family dispute. But they had escalated things to a level where truth and evidence felt like the only weapons I had left against their wall of denial and manipulation. Saturday arrived. I woke up with a knot in my stomach. 2 p.m. The time of the proposed intervention. I had no intention of being at my parents' house. But I also wasn't going to just let it happen without any response. At 1:45 p.m., I sent a group email. To Mom. To Dad. To Liam. I CC'd Aunt Carol, Uncle Steve, and Cousin Mary Ann. The flying monkey's mom had sicked on me. I did not CC Ava. This wasn't her fight right now. Subject, regarding your concerns and the proposed meeting. Dear family. I received your email proposing an intervention for me today at 2 p.m., citing concerns about my mental state following the events of Sunday, date. I appreciate you coordinating with Dr. Ramirez, though I question the ethics of a therapist agreeing to participate in such a session without ever having spoken to the supposed patient, based solely on information provided by family members with a vested interest in discrediting me. While I will not be attending this meeting, I do want to address your concerns directly, as they seem to stem from a profound misunderstanding, or perhaps a deliberate misrepresentation, of the situation. My anger on date was not a symptom of stress, depression, or delusions. It was a direct, rational, and frankly overdue reaction to discovering that my brother, Liam, with the active encouragement and complicity of my mother, Diana, has been systematically deceiving me for at least 6 months. Liam has solicited and received approximately $8,000 from me during this period under false pretenses. These funds were requested for fabricated reasons, including non-existent medical bills, specialist co-pays, job hunting expenses for a job he apparently never lost, or perhaps never had, and other fictional hardships. This was corroborated by the conversation I inadvertently overheard between Diana and Liam before dinner, in which they discussed the effectiveness of these lies and laughed about my gullibility. Hook, line, and sinker, keeps her feeling useful. They also mentioned the money was being used for items such as a new sound system and weekend trips, activities inconsistent with the dire financial straits presented to me. For clarity, I have attached bank statements highlighting the relevant transfers and copies of Liam's text messages requesting funds for specific, fabricated needs. I have also included screenshots from social media confirming Liam's recent leisure activities and purchases, which seem to contradict the narrative of hardship. Here, I attach the screenshots and a summary document. My decision to cease financial support for Liam and to distance myself from these toxic dynamics is not evidence of a mental breakdown. It is an act of self-preservation and a necessary boundary established in the face of sustained deception and emotional manipulation. Attempting to frame my valid reaction as a mental health crisis requiring intervention is a transparent attempt to deflect accountability and constitutes severe gaslighting. I am not lashing out. I am stating facts and protecting myself from further financial and emotional exploitation. Liam does not need my forgiveness, he needs to take responsibility for his actions, including finding legitimate means of supporting himself and repaying the money he obtained through deceit. Mom does not need to worry about my mental state, she needs to reflect on her role in enabling and encouraging this behavior. Dad, your passive complicity in this situation is deeply disappointing. Silence in the face of wrongdoing is not neutrality. To Aunt Carol, Uncle Steve, and Mary Ann, I understand you likely heard a very different version of events. I hope this clarifies the reality of the situation. My current distance is not meant to punish, but to protect myself while I process this betrayal. I am open to genuine reconciliation in the future, but that would require acknowledgement of the truth, sincere apologies, and tangible changes in behavior, specifically, Liam taking financial responsibility and Mom ceasing her manipulative tactics. Staging sham interventions and resorting to character assassination is not the path to reconciliation. Until such time as genuine accountability is demonstrated, I will maintain my distance. Please respect my decision. I will not be engaging in further debate on this matter via email or phone. The facts speak for themselves. Sincerely, Chloe. I hit send. My hand was shaking again. It felt like dropping a bomb, but a bomb of truth. It was terrifying, but also liberating. I had laid it all out. No hysteria, just facts. Attached evidence. I'd called out the gaslighting, the manipulation, the enabling, the flying monkeys. I'd stated my boundaries clearly. My phone immediately blew up. Texts and calls from Mom, Liam, Dad, Aunt Carol. I ignored them all. I turned the phone off completely and put it in a drawer. Then I went for a long walk. The longest walk. I walked for hours, through neighborhoods I didn't know, just putting one foot in front of the other. I felt lighter than I had in years. Scared, yes. Sad, definitely. The finality of that email, the burning of those bridges, was painful. But the relief was immense. I had taken back control of my narrative. I had refused to be the crazy one, the difficult one, the scapegoat. When I finally got home, exhausted, and turned my phone back on hours later, the notifications were overwhelming. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. I didn't listen to or read most of them. But I saw snippets on the lock screen. From Mom, how dare you? This is slander. You'll regret this. From Liam, you bitch. You ruined everything. I'll pay you back when I fucking feel like it. From Dad, Chloe, please call me. This is tearing the family apart.
From Aunt Carol, Chloe, I see.
I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Okay, that was unexpected. The next few days were a blur of emotional aftershocks. More angry texts from Mom and Liam, focusing on my betrayal in sending the email, my cruelty, how I'd humiliated them. Nothing about the actual content, the lies, the money. Zero accountability. Dad sent a few more pleading texts, asking me to just talk to them, to smooth things over. I told him gently but firmly that smoothing things over wasn't possible until Mom and Liam acknowledged the truth. He stopped texting after that. Ava called me, sounding shaken. Chloe. The email. Wow. Mom went ballistic. Liam stormed out. Dad just retreated into his study. Aunt Carol called Mom, and apparently, it was not a supportive call. Mary Ann texted me asking if I was okay. Are you okay, Ava? I asked. Yeah. Weirdly. It's awful here, the tension is insane. But, thank you, for saying it all. For not letting them make you the crazy one. It kind of makes me feel braver. That meant more to me than she knew. Life changed after that. Dramatically. The constant low-level anxiety I used to live with, anticipating the next family drama or demand, started to fade. The quiet in my life felt less like emptiness and more like peace. I saw my friends more. I started dating again. I enrolled in a pottery class I'd always wanted to try. I slept better. Of course, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There were waves of sadness, especially around holidays or birthdays. Seeing other families interact normally could trigger a pang of grief. I missed my dad sometimes, the quiet, decent man buried under the enabling husband. I even missed the idea of the brother Liam used to be, before the entitlement fully took root. I missed Ava, though we started talking more frequently, forging our own connection outside the family pressure cooker. Mom and Liam kept their distance, mostly communicating through frosty silence, punctuated by occasional passive-aggressive comments relayed via relatives I hadn't blocked, or vague social media posts about toxic people and betrayal. Liam apparently had to get a real, low-paying job, which, according to the family grapevine, he complains about constantly. Mom focused her energies on portraying herself as the wounded matriarch to anyone who would listen. Dad remained quiet. The intervention never happened, obviously. Dr. Ramirez apparently backed out quickly once the email circulated, or perhaps once Aunt Carol read her the riot act. A few months ago, I got a package in the mail. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. It was from Dad. Inside was a check. Not for the full $8,000 Liam owed me, but for a significant chunk of it, about $2,000. There was a note, just one sentence, a start. "I'm sorry, Chloe." I cried when I saw it. Not just because of the money, but because it was the first crack in the wall. The first tiny admission of responsibility, however indirect. I deposited the check. I sent Dad a simple text, "Thank you, Dad." He replied with a single heart emoji. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was something. A flicker of hope that maybe, someday, that relationship could be rebuilt on a foundation of honesty. With Mom and Liam? I don't know. The level of deceit, the manipulation, the utter lack of remorse. It's hard to see a way back from that. Cutting them off was the hardest, most painful thing I've ever done. But it was also the most necessary. I finally chose myself. My peace, my sanity, my self-respect, over the illusion of a happy family that was actively harming me. It's still lonely sometimes. There's a hole where my mother and brother used to be, even if that space was often filled with stress and obligation. But the freedom is intoxicating. The quiet is healing. I'm building a life where I am valued for who I am, not what I can provide. Where my earnest little heart is seen as a strength, not a weakness to be exploited. So, Reddit, after all this rambling. I guess I'm wondering, did I go too far with that email? Was exposing it all like that, evidence and all, the right move? Or should I have just stayed quiet, kept my distance, and let them live in their lies? Part of me feels vindicated, like I finally pulled back the curtain. Another part feels like I maybe poured gasoline on a fire that could have just burned itself out eventually. What would you have done in my shoes?